Hi, I'm Jeremiah Edlin,
And I'm Kevin Anderson.
and this is the Talking Stuff Nonsense podcast. And there
Talking
we go.
stuff and nonsense. We're here. We're
We're
here.
back, and we actually did we say it last time? Did we say our intro at the first at the beginning?
You mean who we are and what we're about, or the topic? What do you mean?
Like, did we like say like we said we did we say we're talking stuff nonsense podcast?
Yeah, we're the Talking Stuff and Nonsense podcast.
Right.
So we're thoroughly unprofessional. We don't care.
Yep.
We're talking about what we want to talk about. I'm Kevin Anderson. I'm almost 60 years old. I can't believe I'm almost so old. And that's Jeremiah
And
Edlin.
I'm 15, almost at 14.
so and we care a little bit if you like us or the things we talk about, but honestly, we're just doing this because we like it.
And
So
and plus, this is a good chance for us to talk to each other.
mhm.
And since you're in Michigan right now,
Yeah, yeah.
how is it though? How is it down there or up there actually?
It's good. By the way, before we get too far, okay, May the Fourth be with you, Jeremiah.
Thank you. May the fourth be with you too.
So I would be wearing a Star Wars shirt, but Miss Jen and I are in transition. We're in Michigan. We used to live in Corydon, there where Jeremiah lives, and Corydon, Indiana, that is. And we're
Well,
in transition. I am sitting in front of a door, one of the bedroom doors in my wife's sister's house in the basement, where we are staying until Friday.
Friday.
We're
Hey, it's getting
closed.
close.
We're closed. We got 4 days more in the Cavender home, and then we will be on Clark Lake Road in Jackson, Michigan. We're closing on Friday. I'm super excited, although I'm a tiny amount annoyed.
Mm-hmm. Explain,
So
please.
we'll be making a fairly large down payment on our new home.
Mm-hmm.
I won't say how much but it seems like a lot to me.
Right.
Um, and we have to wire the money.
Okay.
A wire transfer is a thing that you set up from your bank directly to whoever you're paying.
Right.
And I could swear we've been able to do this over the phone or online before, but the bank that we've used makes you come in person to a branch.
You're coming back. You're coming next.
No. Okay,
Ah.
so on Tuesday I'm driving to Marion, Indiana, which is near Indianapolis. I'm driving 160 miles each way just so I can walk into the bank and make this wire transfer.
Yep.
I'm also going to withdraw a certain amount of money to pay our movers.
Ah.
It's more than you can withdraw in 1 day from an ATM. It's actually more than you can withdraw in 3 days from our ATM. So, so that's a little annoying, but it's an excuse to have a day off and just drive in my car and listen to my audiobook,
Right.
which is a thing I like to do, right? But we're real close. We're real close. So the house on Clark Lake Road it's if you know Jackson, Michigan, it's east of Jackson towards Napoleon, and it's just a few houses off of M50. And if
Okay.
you don't know Michigan, that means nothing, right? But anyway, so we're very, very excited. Uh, Mama Jen and I are we've she's been in this house staying with her sister since December, and I've been here since since about a month and a half ago. So we're really ready to have our own place again. Are you raising your hand at me because you want me to stop talking? Because I
Uh,
will.
no. It was about this. So right now, actually, we have like three cameras going right now. Um, Like I will. I don't know if I should show you guys or not because I think it's actually hilarious. It's only external mom or whatever transition. So right now we got this right here showing, and then we got no, no. Hold up. I gotta figure it out. 1 second. Man, I can't figure this out. Wait.
So for those of
and
you who don't
then
know,
and then we got Google Maps, and then we got Video Ninja.
oh yeah, you got Google Meet, you mean?
Yeah,
But
and
yeah. So folks, you're getting a look behind the camera, so to speak,
yeah,
behind the scenes, behind the curtain, as they said in The Wizard of Oz, at our production.
right.
Jeremiah was um, showing you
What
the
I
OBS
do,
feed.
yeah.
Actually, I don't know. Yeah, I wonder how much they saw of that. If they're just seeing,
They probably said opposite. I don't know. We'll see.
yeah.
I'll see whenever I look at
Did
it.
you change to a scene that showed? Yeah, you did, because I
Yeah,
saw it. Anyway, so
yeah.
we're thoroughly unprofessional, and we do not apologize.
Right now, my desktop is very messy. I have OBS Studio on one side, have Google Meets on this side, and my notes. So yeah, well, just a little messy.
So we didn't even talk about a topic. You just said, "Hey, do you want to podcast tonight?" And I said, "Yeah, 7 or 8," and then we went. So what is in your notes for tonight?
So me being very dumb, last Sunday, I took off this muffle here, and it sounded it sounded like a Chromebook mic. And I grabbed something and threw it across my room, and my room's like, how many feet do you think it is, like
Oh,
lengthwise?
it's at least 25 feet lengthwise.
So I threw it like 25 feet over, and then and it sounded like something dropped by right by my mic. So so I looked when I was editing on Monday. I didn't realize that on Sunday. Then I edited on Monday. Then I played it, and I was like, "Shoot, this sounds terrible." And that's why on I think I explained it on our YouTube channel of
Mhm.
why it happened, how dumb it was. So,
Yeah, so it is what it is. So, hey,
and by the way, we're talking about the Navy too. I got
okay,
my Navy
we'll
shirt
talk
on.
about the Navy some more. I just want to catch up with you just a little bit more, if you don't mind. Um, today, at Jackson Free Methodist Church, where we are attending now,
Okay,
I operated the mixer in the sanctuary for the second time.
nice.
And having to say that might give you an idea of the size of the church. We have an activity center, also known as a gym, where we set out chairs every week,
Hmm.
and then we take them down so people can use the gym, right? That did not sound like it hit right next to you that time.
Yeah, that hit the ladder. So,
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyways, um, so we have this activity center, which is a big room, and we can have like 500 people in, and we usually have 400.
wow, the gym. Invite
Yeah,
me.
for 2 services. Okay. Now, one service is attended a little better than the other, but they're both pretty full. And because they're both pretty full and they didn't want to build a whole new building, they have renovated the old sanctuary, which seats about 200, and they run 2 services in that room also. And I've been in that room. And so the activity center, they do a electric worship live,
Like where you can like
live
around.
with guitars and drums and the whole bit. Both services.
Okay,
Okay, it's really good. It's a lot of energy. It's really good. And then in the sanctuary where I've been this week and 2 weeks ago, um, they run a contemporary service early, but it's not full electric like in the activity center. It's an acoustic guitar and a keyboard and a cajon.
okay,
A cajon is a box, that
right.
a guy sits on and beats on with his hands.
Hmm.
Okay, and we mic that, but otherwise It's an acoustic instrument just like the guitar. And then we have two or three singers, but still it's a more contemporary thing. And then the second service is traditional organ, four singers, old hymns, all that stuff. And so I've been able to operate down there the last two times, and I'm having a great time with it. The mixer we have costs as much as all of the equipment that we had at CFC.
Are
No
you?
joke.
Oh my
The mixer is
gosh!
like $8,000.
Woo! I'm allergic to that price.
And it's not a very large mixer. It's I don't know. It's probably, well, you can't see on the camera, but it's probably 24 inches wide,
If
maybe.
you text me
And
what kind of it is, I can probably show up a picture on.
it's it is a Allen and Heath Avantis.
You're gonna have to text me that. I won't remember that.
And sure, I will. I'll send it to you. But anyway, so it has a 12 or 13-inch touch screen on it, plus the physical fader controls.
Uh,
And then in the activity center, they have the big boy, the full Avantis, which is as large as the X32 we had, and it has two of those touch screens on it. And that
right.
one is 11,000. Now,
Let's see.
I'm not bragging or trying to impress. It's just,
Right.
it's so cool to be using this stuff.
Right. Let's see. Grace, you back? I heard something down there.
We're so professional.
Yep.
We're so anyways, it's just, if you're a tech person, upgrading equipment is always fun. And I've just been having a great time with this stuff. The sound in the room is so clean, and it wasn't bad at community fellowship. It's not bad, but this is another level.
Right.
Okay, the sound of the reverb and the delay when you put it on the vocalist is just so clean. It's it's I can't
Right.
I can't describe, but it's a world of difference, and you're going to get to see it soon. Okay, because won't be too long before we'll have you up to uh
Wait.
to visit.
I'm just schooling. Well, I'll be right back. I need to see how when
You're
school is schooling.
I guess I get to carry the podcast now while Jeremiah has just left his chair. But this reminds me of in Jurassic Park when uh, the two doctors are talking they're in the cars that are running through the park, and the one doctor, the chaotician, is talking about how you can't predict things.
I
And
realize that now. I realize what
like
you're
he
talking about.
says, see that? Who could have predicted that
Yeah.
that Dr. Grantham would have left the car?
Yeah.
And there goes Jeremiah. Who could have predicted that that would have happened?
Hey, some people like it when creators are real with them, other than like,
Yeah, MKBHD would never do that.
nope.
They're so professional at this point.
By the
They
way, yeah. By the way, school ends. My school ends on the 23rd.
The 23rd. Okay. Awesome. So, and we'll talk it over with your mother and stuff, but
Yeah.
I really want you to come up and
Me too.
experience what we got going on here. The new house, the church, the whole bit. So,
So so let's see what's going on with me.
yeah, yeah.
So everything's going good. School's almost over, which I'm kind of sad about because I hate being free. I hate it. I can't. I don't like playing games anymore. It's so like boring or depressing.
You're going to work, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's one plus. But then also I don't get to see my friend. My friend just dumped this news on me where he said he was gonna move. He said I'm gonna move schools, but I probably will move schools at the end of the day. But then
Oh,
out of
that's
nowhere, he just
disappointing.
said he out of nowhere he said, "Sorry guys, I I'm moving, and so I want you guys on Monday." I'm like, I didn't even get
Wow.
this. I didn't even get to
Oh,
say a
wow.
properly good goodbye. And so, and so I told him, hey man, why don't this weekend, why or next weekend, whatever, why don't we all of us all like the boys basically, we get together and then we hang out and say our final goodbyes to him before we do anything. And so I
Good, good.
texted everybody and they said everything sounds good. I just need to ask my mom first because on her way back from Tennessee. She's been gone from Tennessee since Friday 11:59 p.m. No, a.m.
Okay.
Jeez.
Okay.
I was thinking of this
Wow.
like a homework due date. Gosh.
Yeah.
But
So, so speaking of, being away or whatever, so we're coming to court in this weekend.
yes, actually I was surprised that you didn't tell me.
So we're closing on the house on Friday. I'm going to immediately hook up internet, get our Wi-Fi deadbolts installed, hook up an EV charger in the garage, and then the next morning we're going to go ahead and leave for the weekend. And we should be in church on Sunday
Right.
at Community Fellowship, and then Jen is graduating at IUS on Monday morning,
Okay.
and then on Tuesday we're gonna head back to court or back to Jackson.
Man, I'm
So we're gonna get to hang out on Sunday though, so that's cool.
like at the end of the day, like after church.
If you want, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. We're supposed to have. Actually, we might be heading back on Wednesday, Tuesday or Wednesday. Anyways, we're having I think Monday evening we're having a little get together at a friend's house, a friend of both us and Duke and Cynthia.
Uh-huh.
And we're staying with Duke and Cynthia, but we're going to have the party at Daryl and Denise's house, and you'd be welcome to be there for that. Although there will be a lot of people, I don't know that I can be exclusive with you, sir.
What
So
time?
it'll be in the evening, like 7, I think, 6 or 7.
Yeah, I probably
Uh,
won't be able to
but
make
but you and I can hang out on Sunday.
it. Okay.
So
And
Sunday
then
afternoon.
we won't have a house. We will, but we can just hang out along. And Miss Jen will be there
Yeah,
too.
yeah, yeah. You can hang out with us for the afternoon and evening if it's okay with your mother.
She'll probably say yes. Yeah, since I
Yeah.
haven't seen her so
So
long.
it's been a long time,
Yeah.
and regarding the summer, I definitely want to have you up at least once for a couple of weeks and maybe longer
Yeah.
or more. But if you have a job, that will be a part of. You have to work that out.
Yeah.
So
So I'll have to tell him it's just a window washing job. It's like,
okay.
hey, if you want to work for me, you can. It's not really like, well, I will need you, but it's just can if you want.
Is this with your brother's company or?
Oh no, this is with my brother's friend, but he works with the same company that Luke does.
Okay. Well,
All right,
cool. So anyway,
that's enough
just
jibber jatting. So
housekeeping and catching up. And if you all thought that was boring, well,
you can skip.
this is my friend Jeremiah, and
We
I
haven't.
missed him terribly.
Me too. We haven't. We didn't get to talk last weekend, and we're just. I
Right.
missed him. So let's get to it. So, what is a Navy to you?
So first of all, on some level, the Navy is nothing to me because I was in the Army, and there's a rivalry.
Yeah,
But um,
thought that was with the Marines
the
and Army. I
the
know there's a rivalry
Navy,
with Navy, but what about Marines and
yeah,
Army?
yeah, yeah, they all have a little thing. The Air
Right.
Force has a thing. The
Oh
Army has a
yeah.
thing. So then, first of all, the Navy is one of the U.S. Armed Forces, alongside of the Army, the Marines, the Air Force, and the Coast Guard, and the Space Force.
Yeah, so to remind
Okay.
you about that.
Now, Space Force, a lot of people think of it as a little bit of a joke because, well, first of all, because it was Donald Trump's idea and people don't like his ideas. Well, not
Yeah.
everybody. And second of all, it's just really new and there's not much to it yet. But the
Right.
Navy has been well established since all the way back in revolutionary times
Right.
when we broke off from the British, okay, and we had an a continental army and we had a navy. And at that time, our navy was a little bit of a joke, kind of like the Space Force is now. But since then, the U.S. Navy is one of the most powerful and influential forces around the globe.
Right.
Okay, maybe more than the Army in the eyes of other countries because we don't have an Army presence in every country, or at least not much. But the Navy is all over the world, in ports and out of ports, etc. So the Navy is probably the most recognizable armed force worldwide,
Hmm.
even though they're probably smaller than the Army in terms of people. But they definitely are more than the Army in terms of the the cost of the assets. The ships are huge; they cost billions of dollars to build.
I know it's
Um, yeah, and some of them are much larger than others. Obviously, an aircraft carrier is essentially a floating city with a couple of thousand people on it. Where some of the boats are really small, like a patrol boat that maybe has a crew of 10 or
or
12.
like a sea monster, which I'll have video of probably like right here. Yeah.
Hmm.
I'm
Okay,
trying to get better at editing, so
sure. So anyway, the Navy is a huge part of U.S. national security and international influence.
right.
Okay, um, and our influence around the world for good or evil, depending on whose opinion,
Hmm.
is greatly enhanced by our Navy.
Right.
Okay, so I don't know if that was what you were looking for, but that's what I think of the Navy.
Right. So well, basically, the Navy branch is of a country's military, specializes
Hmm.
in naval and amphibious warfare. Navy Ts are like responsible for protecting basically the sea. Um, but the one thing that engages me with the Navy is that it's just on the sea and it's just ginormous ships. It's just so
Hmm.
amazing and interesting, which is why I went through well, on a, which is why I went through a huge phase of only watching Navy videos for like a period
Okay.
of time, and that's where I found my favorite ship, which is the USS Montgomery ICS 8, which of course I'll have a picture up here. If not,
Okay.
sorry, I need to work on my editing. But it's the class is an independent class, a littoral combat ship.
Littoral.
Littoral, sorry.
Which I don't actually know what that word means. We should
Yeah.
look it up.
All
You should
right,
have a
let's see.
definition up there on the screen, like yeah. But anyway,
Littoral.
I forget what it means. But it is a multi capability
Right.
watercraft, and it can launch
A region
amphibious
line on
craft.
shore. It's a
Hmm. It
region
can
line on shore.
do attacks.
Right.
I'm sorry.
It's a region
What?
line on shore or something like that. That's what I saw. But it's primarily focused on littoral operations, which means it's relying on around the shore. Meaning it's designed to operate in shallow, near
Right.
shore environments, conducting missions like
Yep.
maritime security, sea control, and deterioration. Sounds like how do I
Okay.
say
The
this?
word there, by the way, is maritime, which is slightly different than marine time. Maritime just means having to do with the sea. And so security is protection of harbors and things.
Right.
And then also, I believe it can participate in amphibious assault.
I just hit my desk and all my ghost collection has shooken. Like all the
Shaken.
can like I lit like I stood up while this chair was still right on the desk and the chair
Hmm.
popped up and it hit the desk. All my cans shook and
Well, your
yeah,
camera jiggled pretty good too. Just
yeah.
like right now when I bump my desk.
I mean my camera's pretty
Yeah.
solid if I shake my desk, but if I like full on,
No, it wiggles.
yeah.
Trust me.
But
Uh,
it's
Again, we're not in a proper professional studio environment, and
we're
we
just
don't
trying to have
make
fun.
yeah, we don't make apologies for
Just trying to have fun.
yeah. So anyways, w- people talk about football as the ultimate team sport.
Uh-huh.
Okay, because every guy has to do their job on every play. There's not unimportant players on any play. If a
Mhm.
guy it acts like he's taking a play off, then people ignore him, and then he's not doing his job.
Right.
Well, the Navy is a lot like that. So is
Right.
the Army. So is the Air Force.
So is
But the
everything.
Navy might be the most team oriented of all the armed forces for a couple of reasons. Number one, there are so many different jobs to do on any ship.
Mhm.
And plus, there are all these specialty ships that each have their job to do within the Navy. So, I mean, like the aircraft carriers are able to launch, fighters and bombers and things. The missile cruisers are also able to launch one-time use aircraft that are very difficult to stop. The submarines have their job. The patrol boats, the destroyers, they all have a specific purpose, and you need the right ships in the right place. And within each ship, the right guys have to be doing the right job. So it may be the ultimate team activity um, within the
Right.
armed forces.
Now, but back to what I was saying,
Hmm.
and it's also for coastal threats. The speed of it's pretty good. I don't know if I have it. No, dang it, can't remember
Hmm.
it. It's not my notes either. It's a high speed and agility to counter evolving threats in the lower zone. The capability, oh my gosh, capability is achieved through, I'm not saying that word, missions packs, allowing it to adapt to various rules like surface warfare, mine counter missions, and anti-sub warfare, depending on the situation. Now, the firepower, it's a AGM 116L longbow Hellfire missile, and with an MK 110 57 millimeter gun, and then two 30 millimeter guns, two 30 millimeter MK 46 cannons for surface threat defense, and then C ramp L11 cell missile, which I will have them all right here. If not, I'm working on it. Okay, don't judge me.
And for context, people who don't understand metric measurements, an inch is 25 millimeters.
Hmm.
So the 30 millimeter gun is more than an inch shell and probably has a lot of powder behind it. It's
Hmm.
very powerful. And the 50 millimeter is 2 inches and has even more power, a powder behind it. That's a large amount of lead, or in some cases depleted uranium, which is very dense and can go through almost any armor.
Oh yeah.
Um, so those guns are no joke. And the missiles, of course, are basically bombs with rockets on them, and they're smart bombs. They're guided. They don't miss.
Right.
They have to be shot down, or they will hit their target and they will destroy it.
Right.
So, uh, so that's how capable that ship is. But in general, the Navy's job is to help us enforce our will politically and our allies' will around the globe against people who do not agree with us
Right.
and might want to do us or our allies harm.
Right.
Now, some people think that we should not be involved so much with the rest of the world, like it's not our business. We should let them be.
Alexa, stop. Sorry.
But I didn't even hear her. But and there's a love-hate thing going on with the rest of the world, just so you know. There
Yeah.
are people who hate us for the way we act, and there are people who love us for the way we act because we enforce um, the rights of people to be free,
Yeah.
and support that one country should not be hurting another. if we had the ability or the political will, we would be involved in stopping Russia from attacking Ukraine right now.
Mhm.
Actually, we do have the ability. We don't have the political will, meaning that if the president decided that we should attack Russia for attacking Ukraine, the people would not agree, and it would really
Right.
affect his power politically. Okay? But in cases where we feel very strongly, like when we attacked Iraq years and years ago over the 9/11 um, terrorist attacks,
Right.
the whole country willed this, and we had the capability to do this.
Right.
Okay, we had our navy in the Gulf of Arabia, and we had boots on the ground in Kuwait and things. The army, the Marines, etc.
Right.
The Air Force was flying in from Israel and things like that. So we have this ability, but the question is, should we?
Right.
Okay, and that question is answered both by people here within the US and also by other countries around the world in the United Nations.
Mhm. I was about to say. I thought you were about to say something about Jurassic Park, where it's like, like we can,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
should we?
Yes, and we have to answer questions like this all the time in our own lives. Um, just because you can do a thing doesn't mean you should.
Right.
Okay, there are many things um, that we decide to do that in hindsight we may say, I wish I hadn't done that, or somebody else may say, oh no, you don't. Um, or somebody may say, I wish you wouldn't, and may feel really bad that you did.
Right.
Okay, so all around the world, our armed forces are making these kinds of choices.
Uh huh.
Our government is making these kind of choices, and people are voting for or against it every 2 years when they vote for senators, and every 4 years when they vote for uh, president,
Right.
right? And the newspapers are saying things about it. There's all these dynamics involved, but in the end, we do have this ability because, as one of the wealthiest countries in the world, we have the most resources,
Yeah.
and our ships are easily the most advanced in the world, just like our planes are,
Right.
just like
Apology.
our army's weapons.
Yeah. Apology to the audio audience. Right now, I was just tapping my screen. I just I'm really like hyper right now. That's why I've been moving around a lot.
I'm talking too much. That's why you should say more.
Right. But okay, so back to what I was about to say. My favorite history of the U.S. Navy is probably the USS Nautilus, SSN 5571. Gosh,
That
that
is a
thing's made.
submarine, by the way, the
It is
Nautilus.
the world's first operational nuclear powered submarine, and it was on August 3rd, 1958. Became the first submarine to complete a submerged transit of the North Pole. Because in yeah, but because a while back, this explorer was like, I want to go to the middle of the North Pole, and he wanted to do it by submarine because nobody completed it. Nobody went to the middle of the North Pole um, with just other than aircraft. Nobody did that in ships or anything. They wanted to see what's under the iceberg, something like that.
Right.
And so
So, yeah.
so he used
Go.
the Nautilus to go down there, but multiple things happened. Since that thing was an old submarine, gosh, that thing's old. It's it was pretty old by that time still, and it was done with its. I think it was World War II or World War I, either one. But
No, no. Nuclear submarines are post World War II, post Korean War, really. But yeah, we haven't had a portable nuclear capability like that for very long
Right.
in
And
terms of history, maybe 60 years, 70 years.
right.
Um, the reason this is a big deal, just so you know, is submarines used to work on batteries that had to be charged with diesel motors, and diesel needs oxygen to burn.
Mm-hmm.
So you cannot run a diesel motor underwater. You,
Right.
you can't do it.
No.
So they would have to surface, run their motors while navigating along on the surface, and then shut off the diesel motors and dive to run on electricity.
Right.
Okay. And they just didn't have the capability of being underwater long enough to navigate under the polar ice cap.
Right. And so that was another problem because they were since that thing was so old, there were so many complicated things that were happening. Like
Hmm.
what he did, he modified it. He modified it to where it had a drill, so whenever they needed surface for air, they could drill through the ice and get the air. They had just in case if they were gonna run into any ice caps that are like dipped under, kind of like the Titanic, how it looks
Hmm.
small upside, but it's really big down. It goes down low. So they got a shock absorber at the top and reinforced the tip of it and went so it could just bounce right off. And but then once they glide on top, there's this little like not little, but there's this metal thing where it would glide under the ice and still keep on going. Of course, didn't work.
Called a skid
Crew
plate, by the way.
skid plate,
They
yes, thank you.
four by fours use skid plates climbing over rocks.
Right, but he yeah, thank you. But of course it failed because the crew was sick.
Mhm.
Uh, the two propellers that would make them upsend or descend, they were missing. They don't know what happened to it. And then, because they sent a diver to go look in the water, see where it was, and the diver said they're not there anymore. And
Hmm.
they used to send radio checks, and they would have to go back to every place, and he just gave up. And he his ended his life. Once he died, he didn't know if anybody made it until I think sometime. But but in the war, now enough about what somebody else used an hour for. Now we're back to the Navy part. Now it really was not used for like it didn't have any firepower. It was only designed for traditional like firepower in the sense of carrying surface to surface or surface to air weapons instead of its primarily strength to lay. It's in its ability to operate submerged for extended periods of time, and its advantage to technology, which resolu- resoluted whatever submarine warfare.
So the that that submarine was meant to prove a concept, a proof of concept.
It was basically
Of
just
course,
like a
these days the technologies are also much better.
yeah,
They've got the nuclear down where it's almost routine, and at that time it was a very scary technology, and you didn't know if you would maybe the whole crew would become irradiated and die.
or become
Um,
frogs.
yeah, the radar and sonar on board the ships is way better now. So they have much better awareness of what obstacles are near them, uh, global positioning, GPS satellites. Um, they can work them now to fairly deep depths, so they know where they are at any given time.
Right,
There's just all the technologies have improved so that a trip like that is now maybe not routine, but it's much, much more doable with modern submarines,
right.
with modern nuclear submarines. So
Uh,
it's not even a thing anymore. Um, but at that time, it was a crazy thing that the guy was trying to do. So now the Navy routinely goes with respect within international law.
right,
They routinely go anywhere in the world.
right.
They stay to international. waters as far as anybody knows.
Right.
Um, and because if they're caught in another country's sovereign waters, it can be a serious issue. It can be an act of war,
Right.
depending on if that country is a ally or an enemy. Okay, but we can go literally anywhere in the world now, as
Right.
long as the ship in question can handle the depth of the water in that space.
And how the sea's like, no, I'll let you pass.
Well, almost all of our ships at this point can handle any storm. Okay. Many of our submarines can go to almost any depth, although there are, each submarine has what it calls a crush depth,
Right.
which is a point where the water pressure gets so much that it will literally be just squashed inward by the water pressure.
Just pulling.
So they can't like, I don't think we have any Navy submarines other than scientific ones that can go down into the Marianas Trench, for
Yeah.
instance, go to the bottom. Um, but there are experimental vessels that can take like one or two people to those great depths.
Kind of like
But it's,
The Titanic submarine. Whenever those billionaires would go down to sea.
yeah, no, that one was, yeah, that those people died. They probably thought they were going to be crushed, and then they were dead.
Right.
Um, they probably didn't have any time to think about it or be in any kind of pain. They were just done.
This is fun.
Um, yeah, kind of like a, yeah, bullet to the brain. But our Navy ships can go pretty deep, just not ultimately deep. Water pressure is a serious, serious thing.
Yeah. I really wish I did more notes on this of speed. I don't know why
Uh,
I didn't think of that, but I didn't. But
so speed in the Navy is measured in
knots,
knots,
yes.
which is nautical miles per hour. A nautical mile, I believe, is
10 miles?
a little long. No, no, it's just a little bit longer than a mile. Um, so 50 knots is definitely more than 50 miles per hour, but 50 knots would be a really high speed for a ship,
Oh yeah, like 25 knots is pretty fast for like
unless it was a hydrofoil.
yeah.
And a hydrofoil is a boat that has a kind of a wings, like there's the hull, and then underneath it there's a wing structure.
We had a
And
thing going on with that.
yeah,
The
when they get
Navy
to a certain speed, they can actually rise up out of the water, and they have very little water resistance then.
now I so there's this channel called Mustard. I recommend you guys go check him out because his history on what we used, like basically what we had like examples of or something like that, like experiments. Like we had a lot of experiments on the ground effect. You know what that is, right?
Hmm.
So we had a lot of
Ground
experiments
effect,
that
yeah.
planes or boats would use as a ground effect. We had a lot of we went through during the Soviet Union whenever it was rising. We had man, our Air Force was booming, and so was everything. Our tech, we were trying to figure out everything we
Hmm.
can to just defeat them. And we went through this thing with the hydrofoils. We went this thing
Hmm.
with saying, what if we had an aircraft in the sky where it hold? It was just insane. But I think that's all I really want to talk about the Navy. I think that's
Yeah.
probably it.
So the capabilities are incredible. Ships can stay at sea because of nuclear propulsion. Ships can stay at sea for as long as they have food supplies.
I think a
They
submarine
can
can stay
stay
submerged for like
underwater,
25
right? And the submarines can
years.
stay underwater as long as guys can stand to be underwater because they have recirculating systems for CO2 and oxygen. Um, so really, at this point, it's how long can the crew survive? How long can they stand to be at sea psychologically? Um, and the capabilities are way, way beyond what was imagined during World War. while in
Yeah.
World War II. And also, the destructive abilities of the ships are way beyond, besides being able to deliver nuclear missiles, which is a horrible thing.
Right.
They just have so much ammunition and so much firepower.
Yeah.
It's
But
incredible.
I think that's all we're gonna talk about. And do you have
Mhm.
anything else to add to that, or?
Yeah, so let's just talk about we've talked about the power of the Navy and the capability of the ships. Let's just talk about a little bit about what it would mean to be a sailor
Hmm.
or in my experience a soldier, but sailors have similar experiences. So first of all, everybody in the US Armed Forces gets extensive training in the things that they need to do their jobs.
Alexa, stop.
Um,
Sorry.
and some of that is you should unplug her when we're
Alexa,
podcasting.
stop. And then
You should unplug her
reminders.
when podcasting.
That's the last reminder I have set for a day. So.
Okay, okay. So anyways, so soldiers, sailors, airmen are all trained. Um, the U.S. Armed Forces spends hundreds of thousands of dollars equipping and training their uh, their their citizen, you know, their uh, their sailors and soldiers, and that is both in providing them personal things like uniforms and military discipline, like learning to follow orders and what the chain of command looks like.
Right.
But then they're also trained technically in how to do their job. And for like in the Marines and the Army, almost everybody is both a guy who can fire a weapon in personal defense or assault,
Right.
but also has some technical ability, like how to operate a radar,
Hmm.
how to, some of the jobs are medics, which don't normally fight, but they have a rifle because they might need it.
Right.
Um, some of them are computer technicians, or like in the case of the nuclear vessels, there's a whole staff of nuclear technicians who know how to operate a nuclear power plant
Right.
and, um, how to prevent things like a meltdown, which would kill everybody, right?
Right.
um, Cause the ship to sink, etc. How to maintain the electrical, because by the way, the point of a nuclear drive system is both to move the ship physically, but also to power the ship. It's basically an electrical power plant, like you see here in southeastern Michigan. The Fermi 2 nuclear power plant provides power for everybody in Detroit, all the way over to Ann Arbor, 50 miles away, 75 miles away.
Right.
Um, and a nuclear power plant on a ship isn't quite that much, but it runs everything on the ship. Okay.
Right.
It and so those technicians are basically, they work for an electric company as a private electric company, but that's what they do.
Yeah.
And the commanders learn management tools and political tools, and there are gunners and there are cooks, and so depending on what your aptitude is, so there's attitude and there's aptitude. Attitude is how you think about things, what you like and what you don't like, and aptitude is what you're capable to do.
Right.
Okay. And depending on those two things, you choose a job with the Navy, the Army, the Marines, the Air Force that suits what you like to do and what you're able to do.
Hmm.
Okay. So, and some of these things are equivalent to getting a college degree. Okay. Some of them, they want you to have a college degree before you even start.
Hmm.
Um,
Right.
you cannot be a nuclear technician in the Navy if you don't have excellent math scores, if you're not an excellent student, Okay. Uh, if you're not a disciplined individual. Okay. So there's some people that just don't qualify.
Right.
My son Bob um, almost qualified to be a nuclear technician, but his high school grades weren't great.
Right.
So you would qualify based on your attitude and your grades. Okay, assuming that you carry that through high school.
Yeah.
Okay, I probably would have qualified, but I was not interested.
Nope.
Okay, I joined the army. I became a medic. Okay, uh, but every one of them has to be able to fight when the time comes.
Mm-hmm.
If their ship or their camp is assaulted, they may still have to be able to defend themselves. But they all have these specialties, and the training is worth a lot to
Right.
you after you're done. So, anyways, I just want to say it's not only that you're serving your country and your country benefits from your service, but you get something for it. Okay, you
Right.
get paid and you get something of value you can use afterwards.
Right.
So it's
Um.
definitely worth doing for most people.
Right. So I think we're about to get a close on this. We've been recording for about 51 minutes and 29 seconds. Um.
Yeah, we're long enough.
Yeah. And so, but I just would like to say now, what he said earlier is like I'll qualify far enough. The reason I want to join the Navy, um, for like
Hmm.
college reasons, where they would like ROTC, they would pay for my tuition um
Hmm.
and also pay me while I'm in the Navy.
Your room and board, and you get a small stipend. Yes.
Yes,
Yep.
and then I'll be in the Navy for about how many years I'm be in college for, and they'll pay for my college for that many
You
years.
have to give them back at least 4 years.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then and then I'll then in college I'll study business. But that's basically it.
And then once you have finished your college and you've finished your Navy commitment, you will then decide, do I want to stay in the Navy and keep going because this is working,
Right.
or do I want to get out into the world and do something else? My son Steven, he joined as a reservist, but he's now full time reserve, and he's an instructor pilot. And that's I don't think he ever thought that he would end up full time in the Army.
Right.
But you know, and me, I did the reserve for 9 years, and then I was done.
Right.
Okay, so people have their choices, but you have to make a commitment,
Right.
and it's a contract that you need to fulfill, or else you will end up with like some kind of dishonorable discharge or uh, something that then you won't get any VA benefits from it.
Right.
So you do have to fulfill your contract if you want all of the benefits.
Right. So, first, I would like to thank you guys for watching.
Hmm.
I don't really have anything to say, just as thank you. Sorry. Actually, no, I'm not going to say sorry because we're going to talk and we haven't met for a long time. So, um,
Yeah,
but thanks for watching. If you stayed with us this whole time, um, I'm Jeremiah Edlin,
I'm Kevin Anderson. May the
and
fourth be with you.
yeah, I'm before with you, and this is the Talking Stuff Nonsense podcast.
Talking stuff and nonsense. Bye, folks.